Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapple Forward, friends. Today on the podcast, we're asking the question, do flavors suck? And this comes directly from the course outline that Ante Bikic, the head of our Coffee Roasters Mastermind group, this is one of the subjects that he highlighted for our Coffee Roasters Mastermind group. And we have had fabulous discussions in the Coffee Roasters Mastermind group with all the participants around the subject flavors suck. And as coffee roasters, considering that flavors suck was rather challenging, but really enlightening for everyone in the group. And as someone who wasn't a coffee roaster and has never been a coffee roaster, but was a barista for 15 years and is a business owner that deals heavily in flavor around coffee, this was a really challenging discussion. And one that I walked away from continuously thinking about after both of the groups, both of the Coffee Roasters Mastermind groups. And, shout out to the Coffee Roasters Mastermind group, who is the presenting sponsor of this episode of the podcast, for the fabulous discussions that we have. And special thanks to Ante and all of the participants, because it really is food for thought. So if you would like to become a participant of the Roasters Mastermind group, head to the show notes and click on the link to see if it happens at a time that works in your time zone. There's 2 to choose from. So, do flavors suck? Now, flavors per se don't suck. What does potentially suck, though, is the unapproachability, and I'm not even sure if that's a word, but when we put flavor profiles on a bag, we create a sense of unapproachability, or at least some distance between our brand and the customer. And this was one of the first hard-hitting things that gave us some things to think about, that Ante actually brought this point up. He said that we make our industry as specialty coffee unapproachable whenever we start talking about flavors on coffee bags. We separate ourselves out as elitists. And I think that he's 100% on the money. And I say this as somebody who took the perspective with Elixir Specialty Coffee. We took the perspective that we would not tell people, and we wouldn't put flavor profiles on any of our releases of Elixir, for the reason that it was a very different reason than what Ante had. Our reason was that taste is subjective, and we have no right to tell people what they're tasting. Ante takes that idea further. And what Ante is saying when he says, when we put flavor profiles on a bag, what we're saying is that we know better than you what you should be tasting, and we are going to intimidate you by telling you that this is what you're supposed to taste. And now all of a sudden, we have made that situation, we've created some distance between us as people creating a brand and our consumers. And we're telling them that that's what they have to aim for, rather than just saying to them, this is a great cup of coffee. And this is why we think it's a great cup of coffee, because of this strength and this level of acidity. And by strength, we mean the roast profile, because that's what customers mean when they say, is it a strong cup of coffee? They don't necessarily mean how much caffeine is in it. Is it a dark roast? Is it a medium roast? Is it a light roast? And this is the second point that Ante really highlighted in the Coffee Masters Mastermind group around this subject. At the end of the day, when you tell a customer, particularly when you're using really kind of out there flavor descriptors of like particular brands of IPAs and specific sodas or soft drinks that are out there, or cakes like a blueberry cheesecake or a key lime pie. All of these things that we put on these descriptors, and there was one that I had heard of, which was shiny. Somebody put the word shiny on a flavor profiles. All of these things, if you think about it, are intimidating for the average customer. And it leads them to ask more questions that detract from the questions that they should be asking. And what I mean by that is we should be giving them questions to focus on, like, where does the coffee come from? Is it doing any damage when you buy this coffee? Are you participating in a really active way in the coffee value chain? Instead, what they're focusing on is, this is supposed to taste like blueberry cheesecake or key lime pie. What is a key lime pie? Or when they taste this, it says it's supposed to taste like strawberries. Does that mean that they've added strawberries to this coffee? Does that mean I'm confused. Like, why is a coffee supposed to taste like strawberries? We're adding things in there that, you look at people who drink wine and you say, like, we as professionals know that they're not being pompous, but the average person looks at someone who starts saying, oh, I like the tannins in this and I like the acidity in that. The average person looks at those people and says that they're being pompous. We know they're not being pompous. We know that they're being professional. But when we start saying to consumers that these are the things that you should be tasting in your coffee, now we're creating some distance between us and the consumer, or the brand and the consumer. And so on that perspective, these flavor profiles that we're putting on there, they probably do suck. They probably suck for the customer way more than we realize. And I'd invite you to ask yourself the question that Ante asked us in the mastermind group. And then I'd invite you to ask that question about your customers. And that question was, when was the last time that you bought a coffee based on the flavor profiles? Now, if you've answered yes, cool. All but one person in both of the groups answered no. Only one person answered yes. But here's the thing. Ask your customers. And I want you to consider what the vast majority of people say. When was the last time they bought a coffee based on the flavor profile? And when was it? And how often do they buy a coffee based on whether it's a medium or dark or light roast, or on the acidity level? And I guarantee you the majority of people are going to say, I buy this coffee because it's a dark roast, or I buy this coffee because it's lower in acidity or higher in acidity. So these are the things that I think we need to think about and have more discussions around, and consider, why do we really put these flavor profiles on the bag? Does it make us feel better? Does it make us feel validated? Do they just belong on cupping sheets? And does the customer really value this information? Is there other information that we could be putting on the bag that they would find more useful? Don't forget to subscribe, please. And thanks for tuning in. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.